What is strategic HR and why is it important?
Your people are your product.
Every employee wants to feel valued. It doesn't matter whether you're in mining and digging dirt out of the ground or whether you're in manufacturing and creating product. That end product comes through based on how good your people are engaged.
All of a sudden, your staff and your employees are feeling, I'm not just a number, but they want to do that role that you're employing them for. Now, how do we make that role really strategic and important, whether they're the cleaner or the CEO?
If they're connected to what needs to be done, they're going to move more passionately in that direction. Yeah.
To be able to get up in the morning and go to work is because you know that you're making a difference.
If you're not looking after your people, how can you look after your customers? How can you provide really solid products?
You've got an exceptional person and you can get them for 1 year, they can make such a difference.
You know, as a CEO, I want to see the staff are engaged.
It is up to the workplace and it should be done.
Hello.
Hello, yes, I didn't realise. What time is it? 1 minute to go. Thank you for joining, everyone. We are getting warmed up for you. We wanted to jump in a bit early to make sure that you're welcome as you join. And thanks for taking the time to be with us. We'll do a proper intro to the panel, but I guess we can start with the intro. As it says on the screen, we've got the amazing Natasha from there. From the left, Natasha Wilkinson, CEO at Donwood. It's an aged care business, a community-based aged care business in Victoria. And we've got the amazing Alex Viviano, who's the GM of People and Culture at Learning Links. Learning Links is a business
that helps kids with difficulties learning and also disabilities.
Which is amazing. And we've got the awesome Craig, who's on Zoom from Perth, but you wouldn't know with the amazing technology that Eddie put together, Eddie in marketing here. So Craig is an awesome old friend of the company and an awesome HR professional, worked in large companies, in corporate HR, in particular, Craig, in talent acquisition, correct?
Correct, yes.
That's how you started your career. And now you've got your HR consulting business.
Correct, yes.
Thank you for joining us as well, Craig. Guys, I'm really grateful to be here. We're going to have a very good, robust conversation. I'm going to make sure everything's clear to people. I'm not going to let anybody get away with anything to be just a little fluff and stuff. We're going to get into real substance. So that's what what I want, the takeaway from these kind of conversations that I would love to share going forward. And I really appreciate you for being here. No one here is getting paid, guys. People are here to share their experiences out of a good heart. So I really appreciate everybody for being here.
And thank you for the invite, Anwan. It's lovely to sit here with a group of people that have got some real talent and also enthusiasm for HR.
Excellent.
It's really nice to hear all the ideas that are
excellent.
Talking about.
Excellent. So let's get going. Awesome. Eddie, can you please put up the first sort of warm up towards the topic? I would like to frame the topic, guys, just to give you an idea why this is important, why we're allocating all that time and resource into this topic. So Craig did some research for us. Thank you, Craig, and shared with me these. That's a Deloitte trend report. I can't remember the year it was published, but I think it's pretty recent, last couple of years anyway. High percentage of HR's time is spent on admin, but more emphasis to move into strategic roles. So the appetite and the understanding that they need to do that is there. However, 75% of leaders want to do more strategic, but they struggle with admin work. That's, I guess, what I was trying to say. Realize the point number 2 says that, which is cool. The next slide from McKinsey and Company report as well. In the last couple of years, HR teams spend 60% of their time on transactional work, operational work, admin work, and 40% on strategic HR work. And the last bullet point in the last slide, which is as part of the intro, is really, really interesting. And whereby it says companies that do more strategic work have noticed and seen significant improvements to their organizational performance. I mean, this is so powerful. I mean, this is why we're here. Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's really cool. I'm sure everybody understands why we're doing this topic and understand the importance of doing strategic HR. Just wanted really to make sure that we're all on the same page. So We're going to now move without delaying at all to the first point of, we've broken the entire conversation into 3 main points, guys. Every point we will be discussing, get the panel to debate about 15 minutes, and then we're going to get you guys to ask questions for about 10 minutes before we move to the next point. So 25 minutes per point. The first point is the what and why. What is strategic HR? Just for those that perhaps they're not HR folks, or maybe still studying HR and they're doing just, basic HR work at the moment, and they're not really aware of the topic. Young guys could be on the call. So what is strategic HR and why is it important? I've got something in double quote there from Alex on a phone call with Alex last night. She said to me something that was remarkable, I thought. Your people are your product. And, it's so interesting. I mean, it's very, very clear in a business like Alex, why would Alex would be saying that, although it still was amazing to hear that. And also in a business like aged care, like Natasha's business. But someone like us who are software, we don't even do services. People like Craig do HR services, does HR services. We just produce the product, arguably. You could think we could be almost like robots kind of people. But this statement still true for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is you can argue it on the other end of the spectrum, right? So I'll let Alex maybe lead on that since it's your point.
Yes, yeah. Look, and I think, in most organizations, you've got a product or services, and in services organizations, your people are your product. And I think we can learn so much from the excellent work that our marketing teams have done over such a long time about what our customer wants, what market, what market we're moving into.
So these surveys, customer surveys.
Yes, yeah, and all of that understanding that we have about what our customer wants and how our customer wants to engage with us and what products they want and what sells well, we can kind of relate back into our internal environments in people and culture. We really should be thinking about our people as our customer, as our end user, and designing a really great experience for them so they come back and purchase again, or want to talk about the organization more. So I think that's a really great way to sort of reframe how we think about
a programmer that never
people.
talks to the customer, perhaps?
Yeah, look, I don't think there'd be very
How are
many.
they the product?
Yeah, like, do you mean a program?
Yeah, a programmer, a developer in our business. As I mentioned, it appears to be we're on the other end of the spectrum, although I agree with you, still valid for us. But just to maybe, Craig, you can just start on that. In a business like ours, let's say there's a developer, an awesome guy, and we have an awesome team, an awesome culture. I'm not saying they're necessarily, they're not being managed well or involved, but, they don't happen to speak with the customers. Is that still true that those are our product?
Oh, look, I think it's definitely true. It doesn't matter whether you're in mining and digging dirt out of the ground, or whether you're in manufacturing and creating products, or whether you're in IT and developing software. It comes through, that end product comes through based on how good your people are engaged.
Okay.
So,
and I think
thank you, Craig.
Sorry, Craig, you may have a developer who's sitting there and just developing your product. But if he's not feeling engaged in your organization, he's not feeling valued in your organization, when he goes out and talks about what he does, you want to hear his passion to anybody he's talking about, because he's your reputation. He's the person, or she are the people that are actually going to, one, be for the reputation of your business, show who you are, show your culture, and also then they have the passion to want to deliver to your customers. So if they are not engaged and they're just feeling that they're just producing something, what's the end game that they're producing it for?
Yes.
So even if they're not speaking to the customer,
even if they're not speaking to the
working
customer,
on that requirement to be engaged and having passion for what they do and
Absolutely.
love somehow, because the way we managed our business, they love our customers even without knowing about them or meeting them. They will develop that with certain passion and
Otherwise, how are they going to know what to produce?
and can I just add there, and while you're using your developer example, that's going to be the difference between creating a good product and a great product. That developer's either going to come up with better ideas, some smarter things to do, and better ways to do it, if he's fully engaged and is treated as, accordingly.
All right,
So,
thank you,
yeah.
guys. Let's move to the next point then. Appreciate it. Thank you. Can we put the slide back up, please, Eddie?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we do 3 and then come to 2? Because 2 is really powerful and we could spend a lot of time on that. I think 3 is more obvious. If I can start with yourself, why, if HR were doing strategic work, Natasha, why do you believe, at least that's what the point is suggesting, the HR team would be more engaged, and which will lead eventually to a happy team and more retained team, high retention?
Yeah. And I guess Alex will be able to sort of discuss this better than me, but from my perspective as a CEO, your HR team will have different people in it. You will have people that are foundation based, want to tick those boxes, the compliances, and build the foundation of a person. But then you'll have other people in the team that are more strategic, want to see about succession plans, really want to understand the individual, want to understand.
So they have that curiosity,
Yeah,
they have that ambition.
Absolutely.
They will not accept to be treated like admin people.
No, they want to see how they get the best out of that person, so that person feels like they
What
are
person? I'm sorry.
an employee. So to get the best out of their employees, they want to, you can tick all the boxes, you can get their certifications, you can do their annual performance reviews, you can, everything that you've got to tick as a HR person, you can do that. And you're going to have people in your team that are task orientated like that. They're not the bigger thinkers. They're not looking at your employee from a holistic point of view. What kind of coffee do they like? You've got a cafe in the end, just underneath. Instead of going out and just getting a coffee for who you are, it's someone's birthday, you know what kind of coffee they are. Go and get them a coffee and give it to them for their birthday. All of a sudden, your staff member, your employees are feeling individual. They're feeling like, actually, I'm not just a number. This organisation knows who I am and I want to give back to this organisation. I want to know more about this organisation because they know so much about me.
Okay. I did get confused a little bit.
Sorry.
I think that was above my pay grade, maybe. I did get confused a little. All right, simplify it for me. You're head of HR. How can you give me direct examples for the audience? Imagine people without any HR experience. How is it? How does it? What's the mechanism, the psychological thinking, the effect? Yeah, if a team. The HR team are involved in strategic HR activities, why would that make them more engaged in the brand, in the company, in the cause of the company, as well as they would therefore be a happier team and they would stay for longer in the company?
Yeah, look, I think we kind of need to pull it back and say it's not just a HR team, but we as people, want to feel connected. We want to feel connected to purpose, to people, to what we're doing, why we're doing it. And so knowing that, we want to do great work, right? And we want to understand if an organization has a strategy, it just makes good sense to tell every single person as often as you can about that strategy, what it is we're all going for, what direction are we moving in, and how are we going to get there? And we're going to get there together.
So
right?
communication,
And
connection.
That's it. And
that's
so
what you were saying before, right?
yeah.
Right.
And so if your HR team, and we call it people and culture at Learning Links, is really connected to the strategy and how that's going to be achieved, just like every other member of your team is, regardless of their role, their seniority, wherever they sit in the organization. If they're connected to what needs to be done, they're going to move more passionately in that direction. Yeah. And so
it's really interesting. I think there's two sort of aspects to it. So maybe Craig, you can comment on that. So the way I'm seeing it, and I could have missed something here, I just literally been educated about the fact that it's not just about the curiosity of that person. If this person has ambition and curiosity to do strategic work, you cannot not give them that, because they will leave otherwise. I think this is obvious. We can all agree on that, right? Cool. So that was very obvious. But what I just learned that's interesting, it's being doing strategic stuff. They feel that they know what the entire company is doing. They feel involved as part of the mission of the company. And that's really interesting. Can you comment on that, Craig?
Well, I think, I've had lots of people report to me over the years, and every single one of them wants to know how they can make a difference to the organization. And by doing data entry and, that general HR
But Greg, why
admin
do they wanna do it?
activity.
Is that because
Why?
out of the goodness of their
It's
heart?
inbuilt.
Hold on for a sec. Hold on. Is
Yeah.
it because out of the goodness of their heart, they're good people, or is it because they want to put something on their resume to advance their career? This is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, look,
I'm gonna
I
cut
think
through the
it's
fluff.
fundamentally, no, I think it's fundamentally deeper than just a resume.
Or is it both? Is it both?
You want to see that you're adding value to an organization. You're adding value to the work. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it, you be able to get up and in the morning and go to work, is because you know that you're making a difference. And then, yes, you can add that to your resume, but that's only to, again, make a difference to another
So
organization.
Steve Jobs said, add value and money will come. So you're saying if you do that, then your resume is going to be better organically, and you're going to advance your career. So if you focus on
you're just going to be more satisfied at work. Yeah. No, not everyone, but majority of HR people have come in to make a difference. Like that's typically why you get into HR. It's not because you love people, by the way.
People, they're my clients, but my job is to make sure we're cutting through the fluff and make sure we're accurate there. I'd love to hear from HR people in a minute when we start to the Q&As, but I totally agree. It is both. And to be honest, if you're smart enough, you just focus on adding value, and then the money will follow, in my opinion, anyway.
That's it. And this is almost like a conversation a bit about the intersection between human behavior, human behavior in those studies, and also about motivation theory as well. And why would we show up and work for an organization every day? And we all know there's good reasons, but actually they're different reasons for different people. And people have different motivations. Some people, like you say, might be really motivated about being the best, and they're competitive and they want to show up and they want the resume,
and
they want to earn more money. And
why would that be bad?
They're motivated by that.
I'm not suggesting anything,
but that's fine.
Is bad here.
That's their motivation.
You said before, we were having a chat before this, and you said when someone comes to you and says, look, I want to add these roles to my business, to my department or something, you say, how are you going to finance that? I mean, it comes down to money. We're all running businesses that need to be profitable. And what I'm trying to say is these HR folks as well, they've got mortgages and they want to advance their career. They want to make sure if they are in their mid-30s, they are around 150K to be able to survive in Sydney, for example. If you live in Sydney or Melbourne, I mean, that is the reality as well. So I just don't want to ignore that. I want to make sure we address that.
Money isn't the single driving factor.
I didn't say the single, I'm sorry.
It is a factor, definitely. But also career advancement isn't always a factor as well. If you are embedded in an organization,
I think it's the wrong person to hire if the career advancement isn't a factor. I think if they're not aware, if they don't have the ambition that want to advance, they don't have the strategy for their career, I think it could be a problem.
No, not always. I can remember even back in my IT, when I was working in IT, we had a receptionist, and all she wanted to be was a receptionist.
Career receptionist.
And she was a career receptionist, and oh my God, she was amazing. She didn't want to be a manager of anything. And if we had have made her a manager, we would have lost her. We would have lost her talent. And we would have lost who she was. It's hard for people that are career driven to not understand that some people are not career driven. They're very, very focused on what they want.
I got it.
And they do but we've got to engage those people as well.
Craig has done recruitment more than anybody on this table. I want to ask you this, Craig. When I recruit, and be as brutal as you can in terms of if I'm wrong, when I recruit, when I speak with people, when I start to zoom into, I like that person, I want to start to zoom more. One huge important factor for me to cover, the first thing I talk about is, where do you want to be? What's your goals? Are you getting married in the next couple of years? You want to buy a house, the kids, holidays, career advancement? What is it that you want to achieve? Yeah. And then from there, I need to make sure I can build that role for them. The role that I'm offering right now is going to be in line with their vision for their career, because you can never change that, man. When someone has got in their mind, that's where they want to be in 5 years' time. If you're trying to contain them, you're just going to lose them. They're not going to be happy. The ideal situation is I map out a role that is just in perfect alignment with their vision for their career. And that's really what I'm trying to say. I wasn't saying there's anything bad about someone being, I'm just saying if an HR person realizes that for me to be important in the HR world, and therefore, because that's going to make me happy, but also I'm going to be able to make money. So the idea is I'm going to make money from something I love, That's ideally what I want to be. And as a 35-year-old person, I want to be earning something like blah, blah, blah. You want to map out that for them. And if strategic HR is part of their goal, you just cannot contain them, not giving them that. That's all I was trying to say.
And you're not going to contain someone. Go for it, Craig.
Sorry to interrupt, Natasha. I was just going to say, I think there's a fundamental thing that we struggle with often is that we're trying to hire people for life, and that's never ever going to be the case. And if you've got an exceptional person, if you've got an exceptional person and you can get them for 1 year, they can make such a difference to an organization.
Wow,
so
that's
you know,
powerful,
but we keep trying to hire these people. Oh, will you be here forever and you know, carry the company through? And it's not necessarily the right thing to do. Sometimes those people that just want to be there and make a difference for a year and move on will have much more of an impact than those that you hire for life.
And quite often, Craig, with those kind of people, and I think Alex, you'd attest to this, if you have that career-driven person that needs to be, you know, they need to be making a difference every day. That's how. And then as soon as things get quiet, you actually lose them. You lose their strengths. You lose their ability to provide what is 100% to your organisation. It's time for them to potentially move on. And as we talked about before, Alex, that boomerang effect. You know, they go out, they get new knowledge and new skills and everything. And then if you've got an open door for them, they come back and they bring much more back to your organisation.
Okay.
Yes.
Just checking the time, make sure we're okay. We need to wrap it up. Can we please go back to the slide? There's one point we need to cover in about 2 minutes, guys. I'll get you to talk for 30 minutes, for 30 seconds about it. Can HR become a value add department?
It's a value add before it can become one.
How?
Yeah.
Give me a real example, substance example.
Well, I mean, go back to Alex's first point. Your people are your product. If you haven't got a sound HR a sound HR department really investing in your people,
then how does that reflect on your product?
How does that reflect on you as an organization?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not looking after your people, how can you look after your customers? How can you provide really solid products? If you're not.
That shut me up very
Sorry.
well. No, you're so true. I full respect, 100%.
Sorry.
100. What are you sorry about? No. Brilliant. Great. Value add.
I think, yes, HR can be a value add, but they need to make sure that they're solving the problems for the business, not just for themselves or what they, you know, see as a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I see it a lot in HSE, where you create stuff just to make you feel valuable, but it's actually just adding stuff that's not necessary. So you've just got to be careful that you're not just adding, you know, forms and procedures and things to just for people to jump through just for the sake of it. It's got to be value add.
Craig, I agree with you, and I'm going to cut in a little bit, Alex. For me, HR need to give our people back to our business. So there's so many tasks. You're talking about the admin, you're talking about the things that we've got to do, and people have to fill in boxes, read policies, do this and that. If HR can give time back to our people to actually do the things that the business want them to do, that's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. And I've got a good example of that, actually. That's a good, nice segue. Is that
example, let's go.
possible? Is that, you know, when we think about learning and development and policy training, often organizations buy training in for a huge expense. And it might be, say, 1 hour training on the code of conduct, you know, or 1 hour training on the workplace health and safety policy. Like, one of the ways that we've given our people back to the organization is by doing micro learning. So we've designed 7 to 10 minute training programs delivered very nimbly, like a pre-recorded webinar. And it's just an overview of that policy. You know, the policy is only 4 pages. We don't need to talk about it endlessly. We just need a bit of comprehension and quickly. And so instead of 1 hour training packages, it's 7 to 10 minutes, micro learning. This is what you need to know now. And then get on with all the good stuff that you're doing.
And those systems can do that. You know, you can do these little videos, send them out to your people, to your employees. They get these 1 minute, 7 minute toolboxes about policy changes, and that's their attention span too. That's how much time they can give you to learn as well,
Yeah.
unless they're going to a seminar.
Okay.
So I love it.
Thank you, everyone. Now, audience, you've got up to 10 minutes. Questions, opinions, sharing experiences, any of the above, whatever that you want to say. We've got 2 people full-time fielding your questions. What do we call those people?
Moderators.
Moderators, thank you very much. We've got 2 moderators, the awesome Lauren and Henry. So by any means, type up any questions you might have, and we'll address those before we move to the next point. So questions could be, for example, about the value add. If you have any example, I would really appreciate it. Also, an example of a strategic HR example, an activity that you deem strategic HR, like I think someone shared with me, it was Craig, maybe redesigning the maternity leave policy, or you've mentioned, I think both of you guys, succession planning. These are, if you think these are strategic HR. So any example of that would be really awesome, as well as examples of value add.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what systems you use, Alex, but having a solid system in the organisation that takes away that red tape and the compliance as well.
We've got some questions there. How are we? So Lauren, you're going to be able to speak and read the questions. Is that how we're doing it, Eddie?
I can do it.
Oh, okay.
What are the tools to use for creating videos, etc., for policies?
So in the example that I gave before, we use a tool called Kajabi, but we also use the Martian Logic platform to deliver that training and to manage the compliance as well. So for example, we would put the policy in Martian Logic and the training program, and we would send that off as a pack, and we would get a digital signature back on the policy, which is the first part of compliance, right? And the second part is comprehension. It's so important, right? That people understand the content and that they can apply it. And so that's why we have that micro learning there, just to sort of branch out. What does this policy mean? What are some examples?
And that's why you wanted that feature of be able to schedule those courses.
Yes.
In a sense, or
Exactly.
Another
Yes.
thing with that, Alex, for the comprehension, you can actually through the systems, you're sending out the policy, you're sending out a video, but then you can do some checklists. You've got a form that you can get little information back.
Craig, can you please confirm for us that Natasha, you can hear Natasha? I'm just worried if she's too far from the microphone. Can you hear Natasha okay, just as loud as us? Okay, beautiful. Thank you. And Eddie, when you read out the questions, mate, can people hear you? Are you on a microphone?
It was a bit soft. When Eddie.
Okay, so I thought Lauren is on the microphone. Craig, can you please read these questions?
So what about so the next question is, do you consider financial wellness for the employees as a value add? So,
okay.
I mean, my answer to that, and you probably maybe got something similar, is that we consider financial wellness as a baseline requirement and just something that we want to give all of our employees to the extent that we can, given that they all have very unique circumstances with their finances. But we have a 2 sort of points in the year where we actually focus on this. We talk a lot about salary packaging, how people can get a lot from salary packaging. And we are starting to bridge into other areas like, here's a group of lenders who actually understand how salary packaging works. So if you're going for a home loan, and you might experience this too, in the sector, the lenders don't understand the packaging and they undervalue your salary by about 20 grand, which is not what you want when you're going for a home loan. So, we just see that as that's basic. I wouldn't even consider that a benefit. I would just consider that as that's absolutely something that we should all be doing.
Guys, jump in. Anybody that want to add value to any of these points, I don't need to invite you by any means. Craig, do you want to add something to this?
Look, I think, the schools lack in their ability to train this for people. So it is up to the workplace and it should be done as part of their overall, employee benefits, let's call it. But it should just be mandatory to help them be secure in their finances.
Okay, Natasha, you can see Eddie's pointing at the
how do we cut short mandatory work and health safety? Or I've lost it. Sorry, Eddie.
This is it.
is it? Safety or any other important trainings, because the issue we face with our staff is long hours of training. And I think that's what we were talking about, Alex. Definitely those short
Micro-learning.
snippets, give them a video. People are really much more engaged with videos these days, aren't they? Or getting some information instead of having to read multiple pages of a policy.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's it. And with the micro learning, we put quizzes on the back of them. So that's the test of comprehension, right?
Yeah, great.
And we include videos, we include examples, we have different voiceovers to keep people engaged, you know, because the attention span, I think there was a study that came out recently saying it's shortening as a result of all the social media and all the ways that we work, a lot of screen time. And so you only really have people for 3 minutes.
Yes.
So you have to keep them engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some
So
suggestions?
thank you to our team that are still on here.
Yes. What are some suggestions? What are some suggestions for moving HR to a revenue generating department? We have a whole point about this. So if I may, with all due respect, just leave it for later. We're going to be talking a lot about this. We are recreating.
We're creating a staff handbook. Do we want hard copy or soft copy?
Personally, I'm all about digital. My team will attest to this. I'm
Yes.
constantly saying, can we make that electronically?
Yes.
You know, can we automate that?
Yeah.
Can we make that digital? So I'd say soft copy is best.
But I'm going to come in here, Alex, and just a point that we were talking about before with the 5 generations that are now in our workforce.
Okay.
You know, so
Yes.
some people, I think, if I bring up the word COVID, did really digitalize our world and our workforce. People did get mobiles, they did get emails, they became much more engaged because they had to. The digital world was how you stay connected.
Yeah.
So potentially, I agree with you, digital for soft and soft copies, but potentially, you know, you may have in your staff room a hard copy, but it's ever changing, isn't it? A handbook changes so quickly. So that's one of the issues.
And I'll give you an example of that. My cousin recently started working for Temple and Webster, so a little mini plug for them. But they, you know, she's working remotely. They sent her computer, so she had a full work from home setup. So they sent her a computer, laptop, mouse, and a little handbook, a small abridged version.
Yes.
And the what do you call it? The credit that you know, the brownie points that won them was enormous. You know, because it was investing in, you know, here's a little package to get you set up and also a little bit about us, so you can just read in those first critical weeks when you've actually got time as a new employee.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say that too. My very first job with Comtech Communications, we got a little handbook.
Yeah.
And I've still got that little handbook, and I still use those values and and it's not even my organization, but I still refer back to that little handbook and have that.
Yeah.
So
Let's move on. Next point. Alex, can you read that top
Yeah,
point? Someone's sharing their experience with us, which is great.
Yeah, great. So working in large organization, I've partnered with our marketing manager to design a joint customer and employee experience strategy. Wonderful. Massive points there. Partnership is everything.
Yeah.
Working together, we were able to create massive value add to drive business growth by meeting the needs of our employees and customers jointly. So, you know, I think this is so important, right? And it's a really good example of how collaboration is so key to getting things done.
Craig, can you see the question, or you just have to rely on only hearing it?
No, I'm hearing.
Only hearing.
But that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Could you comment on that, mate?
So the thing that's been going through my head in this whole time in the recent conversation is around being frictionless, you know, and airports have gone digital where you have to self-check in, you know. We've got to make, but they've only been able to do that because it's relatively straightforward and easy to do, you know. So we've got to look at that when we create these policies. You know, you don't need an employee to understand every word of the policy. You just need them to understand the principles and the fundamentals of it, right? So make it easy for them to access that, make them easy for them to know where it is and where they can go get more information. And that's all you need to do.
Okay,
so
let's move on to the next point. Thank you, Craig.
some of those points, we could for instance, Alex, what is the training compliance on? So we could probably answer and send out to
Yeah,
the group
absolutely.
afterwards. So maybe Lauren and Henry can actually go through some of these questions.
Sure. But we might address some of them now as well, because people want to know about that. What was the website, Alex? They're asking you. Are you in a position to share that?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's KAJABI. It is a commercial product. It is not an LMS.
Yep.
We have retrofitted it to be an LMS for us.
Beautiful.
But so
As Natasha mentioned as well, we will try to send an email to everyone with some of these things that are better be written or a URL being a place or something.
Yeah. And the next question is about the optimal HR to staff ratio. How many HR staff is optimal for 50 staff members, for example? And like, I think the accepted ratio is 1 to 100, but what I would say is that is only a workable ratio where you have good systems in place, right? And where you have automation and digitization. So, as an example, we've got a 2.6 FTE at Learning Links. We've got 3 staff members, 2 part-time, and we've got just under 300 staff. Right.
Okay.
So that's workable, but only if
because you've automated so much.
You have automation.
But Alex, with that too, you've got your HR team. How much of your key leadership and the executive team and your department leaders and managers actually dabble in HR as well?
Of course
in
they do.
recruitment and everything like that. So we're talking about specific HR team, but then the auxiliary team in your organization, the impact that they have on HR and the strategies in recruitment and onboarding and work cover, everything like that.
That's the point. It's such an awesome point. We have a whole point about that. And I'm glad you brought it up. For example, you're absolutely right, because it's not just having things automated. It's actually involving collaboration, involving the managers. Henry, the awesome Henry, who works for Martian Logic HR professional, said to me something last night was amazing. He used the word manager self-service, not just employee self-service. That's what we used to describe collaboration. We used to say, HR and the managers need to work together because to remove the bottleneck from HR. But we have a whole point about that. So, but thank you for bringing it up. Very good point.
I love
Next
that.
one.
And I think that, sorry, can I just say,
course,
I think that ratio is very dependent on what you're expecting the managers to do to manage their teams versus expecting HR to do. So, and there's this very big, variable in how organizations view that, so it does really depend. And it also depends what's incorporated in that. Is payroll incorporated in HR? Is it not?
Exactly. And as an example, we have payroll, we have a payroll function that sits partially within our people and culture team, and also work, health, safety and wellbeing sits within. That's not a separate function, whereas in larger organizations, it's carved out. So,
So it really depends what you consider HR.
Yes.
True. Who can read that point there instead of, that's the last point we're going to read before we go to the next point.
Great. So great question. How do you feed back to the people when their value add does not reflect the organization's value add? For example, our team want work from home and organizations want on-site only. Gosh, this has been a big debate, hasn't it?
It has been. And is that get on the organization's bus or get off, or where do we go here?
Yeah, look, personally, the answer to this question for me is about goal setting and waterfalling your strategy. So what we have is we've got an organizational strategy for a 3 to 5 year horizon. We have an operational plan that breaks that organizational strategy down into quarterly sprints so everyone knows what they are delivering in that quarter. We then break that into goals. You've got your department goals and your individual goals. And then you've got your KPIs as well, just the baseline stuff that you should be doing all the time in your daily completion of your role.
You're saying based on that sprint, could be allocated that you're working 3 days from home or whatever that is.
Yeah, well, if you're achieving those goals and the organization's goals, where does it matter where you're delivering it?
Is that what you're saying, Alex?
All I'm saying, I think in direct answer to that question is really, how do you make sure you're adding value? You need to be clear about what the goalposts are and be very clear about what good looks like and what excellent looks like, and when you meet those goals versus when you don't. We have a 4-point scale in our performance program, needs development up to consistently exceeds expectations, and you have to give people feedback on how they're going. It is rude to give people feedback on a goal that you haven't originally set with them, so you have to take it back to basics. You've got to set your goals. You've got to do that properly and then track that progress really frequently.
Okay. Craig, quickly, 5 seconds, and we're going to move to the next topic.
Well, I think you've got to work out whether there is actually a value add from working from home. Now, I work from home often, so I love it, but it's definitely not a value add for every organisation. So if you want to go down the path of working from home, you've got to work out what the value add is for the organisation and make sure there's a dollar figure in it that can support it positively.
Yes.
And how you keep that connection and the communication. You know, we
Mm.
talk about those corridor conversations. If you're always working from home, how do you stay connected, and how do you know what the organisation is wanting to do if you are in your own little solitary home? You know,
Yes.
how does the
Mm.
organisation
Communication,
help that?
you can still
Communication.
communicate with people. Doesn't mean if they work from home,
Yeah.
you're not communicating stuff to
No.
them.
You can.
You
You
know,
can.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
And we have a flexibility policy, and we say that we have in-office days, and we call them collaboration days.
Yes.
And what we say to our people leaders is make it worthwhile for people to come in. On the days that are collaboration days, don't be in meetings all day. If you're the
Okay.
people leader,
Yeah.
spend your
Okay.
time with your people face to face.
Okay, audience, we're really sorry. We would love to address every point, but it means we would have to go for 3.5 hours, like a proper podcast style. But we did not advertise it to be like that, so we're going to have to cut it short. I'm really sorry. We're going to go to the next point, major point of the discussion. Point number 2, and that is how unorganized. By the way, if you have any specific questions you still really want answered, send it to me, anwar@martianlogic.com. I will ensure these 3 individuals, awesome individuals, get it, and I'll get responses from them and send them to you.
Yeah.
Okay. How an organization develops strategic HR capability. So what I'm trying to do here is, and I think a couple of the questions were about that, in terms of we're a great company, but just historically speaking, we haven't done, HR hasn't done much strategic HR, maybe because we didn't need to, or for whatever reason. There's no good or bad here. Every company, at the end of the day, the purpose of the company is to create return to the shareholders. That's ultimately what the company's trying to do. And how they get there, many ways of getting there. Doesn't mean every company has to do everything, that other companies do. So in a sense, it's not in any negative way, but nevertheless, we have a company and they don't have the capability in the HR team to add strategic value, to do strategic activities. It's a journey. It's not going to be, you can't just turn the switch. All of a sudden you have an HR team capable of doing strategic stuff. So how do you make that transition? How does a company develop such capability? That's what this topic, if you like, about. To break it down, I've suggested some stuff, but you don't have to adhere to any of that. I could be completely wrong about what I've got here. So you can approach it from any angle, guys. But what I've got, at least in here, if I can explain it, I'm thinking here, the leader, let's say CEO, in the case of Natasha, the leader has to believe in and champion the strategic HR, meaning they need to believe in HR, need to have a strategic contribution. They need to contribute strategically to the company. They need to have a seat at the table. So when if that knowledge, if that belief is there, then they need to, in a sense, point 2 and 3 is, in a sense, put their money where their mouth is. And the first thing is to get the lead of HR to have a seat at the table, at the management table. That's the first thing they need to do, if they really believe in that.
Yeah.
And then after that, they need to invest in creating an environment where people feel valued. If you're saying to people, I want you to be more strategic, and you think it's okay for them to still be doing outdated technology, it's not respectful, you don't believe in what you're saying, it's not going to happen. You need to make them feel valued when you make that investment. But at the same time, you're saying, so I value you, I believe in you, you can be strategic. And at the same time, indirectly saying, and you know what, you do have time now. So it's really, you've done both. So you put in a position where, oh my God, they believe in us, we can do that. And we have to do it. We can't hide behind anything right now. We have time. We've automated stuff. So it's really very important, I believe, for all that to happen. But as I said, you don't have to even address my points. Let's just worry about the top point of what we're trying to achieve, starting with Craig. What do you believe the number one important thing to be done, or how does it become, we become on the journey of developing that capability in a company that doesn't have it yet?
Look, I think you've got to prove your worth, and pick a topic, pick an area of strategic HR that you're passionate about and can make a difference in, and prove it up. Like implement, put a proposal forward, get the background information, the data, etc., that proves your point and the path forward, and actually do something to prove that you're worthy of a seat at the table first up.
So you're saying,
So-
Craig, just to make sure, you're saying in a sense a little bit disagreeing with me, or maybe a lot. You're saying it doesn't have to start with the leader. It can start from the HR team. They can start to make that noise to prove themselves and let the company know that we can do that.
Well, if you're in a great position where you've got a supportive executive team that will, support you and develop you, that's great. But if you don't, because it's not always the way, right? There's not always that support. You then have, if you don't have that support from the executive team, you have to prove your worth,
That's a
and
great point.
that's part of
Natasha?
the problem that HR professionals face, is that they don't have that initial support. So you have to prove your worth.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Craig. Thank you. That's a very interesting point, which is something I did not talk about. Natasha?
Well, I think Alex talked about it before, and so did Craig, in relation to, what is the return of investment? What do our HR organisations or our HR teams want to bring to our culture? As a CEO, I want to see that the staff are engaged, our community engaged. It's holistically looking at everybody that touches, for instance, Donwood. How do we bring out the best in people? How do we use their strengths? How do we engage with them? And I think from a HR point of view, again, we talk about those foundations. It's the foundations. We want to tick those boxes, but what do they really bring to the party? How do they really bring people thinking that they're making a difference, that they're feeling
Can
job
you explain to what you
satisfaction?
mean by ticking the boxes? Give us some examples of what you mean
So
by that.
ticking the boxes are your certifications, your
Compliance.
compliance, getting
Okay.
the resume, doing
Okay.
the reference
Got
checks,
it.
onboarding them.
So that's the admin stuff.
That's all the
Got
admin
it.
stuff. That's all the stuff that you have to do. But
Mm.
for a staff member coming on, an employee coming on, they've got paperwork for application forms, getting their passports. It's a lot of stuff. So if you can make that easy, and then you can give them the value add of why they're coming to the organization. They're just giving you that information, but they want to start in your organization because they want to do that role that you're employing them for. Now, how do we make that role really strategic and important, whether they're the cleaner or the
Okay.
CEO? They're coming on to do that
This
because
is
they want to
interesting.
make
Let
a
me
difference.
break it down. I think this is interesting. You've really educated me about something. So you're saying if we just call it, if I may call it, the onboarding process,
Mhm.
perhaps what you were touching on, yeah? And in my mind, as provider of an onboarding technology ourselves, this could be beautiful and streamlined and all that. But what you're saying, you're just touching the surface here. Then you want to really make sure this person understand what they're trying to do. And sorry, how did
And
you then explain
engagement
that?
in the organization.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's just for them.
Engaged.
They're not interested in all of that. I've got to give you my passport, my driver's license,
Got
my
it.
certificate of all my certifications and everything. That's just a process.
That's
That-
brilliant.
but
That's brilliant.
It's our red tape. It's our compliance as
Yes.
an organisation to know that we've got the right people we employ.
Yes.
Now you've just touched the surface.
Yes.
Now, how do you
Yes. And that's the
holistically work
strategic
with
part.
this person? That's the
In that,
strategic
for
part.
example, the
Yeah.
onboarding process. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I really
How do you
like
get
that.
them productive quicker?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And it's sort of curating an experience, right? Like, that so much of what we hear at the moment from our candidates is, recruitment's a dating game. They,
Yes.
they want to
Yeah.
know that you're invested
Yeah.
invested in them as you are, that it goes both ways.
Yeah, they're really
And
looking at you and seeing how your processes and
Yeah.
how you're engaging with them. If you don't
Mm.
engage with them right from the very start, they're
Mm.
like, oh, this organisation ain't
Yeah.
for me.
that's it. And they don't
Yeah.
want to know that they're one of 50 positions or even one of 10 or one of 5. They want to know that they're a person, that they're an individual, that their motivation and their interest and their reason for being here is going to be valued along with their skills, experience, and what they can offer, perhaps technically. So I think, when we curate amazing experiences for people, we make onboarding an experience.
And
It's
that's the
very,
engagement Natasha's
yes,
talking
that
about.
it's targeted to them, and we
Yeah.
of course cover the things that they need to know, but then we make it an experience
Yeah.
rather than a requirement. And that's the opportunity with strategic HR. And it's the same with anything we do in HR. You can you can do remuneration operationally, or you can do it strategically. And operationally might be that you've got EA tables and you just update your REM tables and whack on a 3% every year, and that's it, and everyone
Okay.
gets the same increase.
Okay, I'm going to go to Craig. Sorry, just I'm mindful of the time. I'm
Yes.
really sorry. I have to be rude. Craig, what would you like to add still to this point? Because we're going to go to the audience literally in 1 minute, guys. So if you want to, however you want to use that minute.
Oh, look, I think it's just every employee wants to feel valued. So how does HR support the business in making the employees feel valued is a very key point in strategic HR.
Remember, guys, the point was, how does a company develop the capability in an HR team for that HR team to add strategic value, to be able to act at a strategic level?
Yeah.
And I think
So, for example, if you want to touch on the point of maybe they don't have the skills. So, for example, maybe practically from your experience, if they don't have the skills, how would you go maybe and hire someone or whatever? Same with you, Natasha, because in this case, not even head of an HR, you don't even have one. So, can we touch on that, guys?
Yeah. Can I jump in there then, Anwar? I think HR is traditionally one of the least developed teams, so they spend less on training because they're focused on everyone else's training, etc. So I think we need to make sure that we've got the strategies in place to develop the HR team in strategic HR. So how do you manage change in an organization is the key one, because that's all you're typically doing in HR, but there's not a lot of change training done for HR. So
that's it. Yeah. And look, in terms of a direct answer to your question there before, Anwar, like I think you need to buy in the talent. If you don't have it already and you don't feel your team can develop, you need to decide to invest in them and develop them. And that might mean, that you have an internal mentor or sponsor, which could be the CEO or somebody else in the executive team, or you might need to borrow to lift that profile. So you might need to borrow a consultant, for example, bring them in for a period of time, and do a bit of an analysis on what's going to take us to where we need to be strategically. And I think, that's that evolution. There's a million ways to get there. Absolutely. Okay. My personal favorite is through data. I'm a big fan of digital data. I think when we give people information, we give them data, they can make really solid technical decisions and financial decisions that's based on real figures.
So that would be probably the answer to the question I was going to say. Can someone, either of you guys, give us a real tip for the HR team if they're not at the moment supported and championed from the top? How would you go about gently but yet as loudly as possible let people know that we could be doing this? One tip of maybe the way you communicate it. I think you just said something. Find some data driven.
Analyzing your data.
Yeah, and actually make it mean something. So when, if you do exit interviews or exit surveys, get that data, pull some trends out, aggregate those trends and report that back to the organization, but segment it as well. It's not the same for everyone. The way that our turnover
like
occurs.
Clear return on investment kind of based.
Yeah, that's it. And what we gave to our people leaders earlier this year is data packs on their whole talent life cycle. So we said, this is all about your hiring and how you're going. This is the talent flow that you got this many applicants, you interviewed that many, you converted that many, and you hired that many. And what does that say about how we're doing things here? Not just that we did do them, but about how we're doing them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Last
Alex,
point on that.
look, you've hit a point there that's really valid. I walked into the Rio Tinto global role, and the noise was immense. It was deemed as one of the most critical areas within the business, the highest risk areas in the business, because we weren't delivering. And when we went and got the data and shared that data with the leaders, the noise stopped and we got to be able to do the work that we needed to do. But it was because of the lack of visibility on the process and lack of visibility on the what was actually happening, created that noise. So once we stopped that by providing the data, it enabled us to actually go do. Weren't justifying ourselves and trying to appease the leaders. We could just give them the data and move on, and it stopped the noise. So data is highly important.
Okay, thank you guys. Let's take some questions from the comments from the audience. Do we have some already?
Yeah,
There's so many questions in there. There's a lot about that working from home as well.
Yes,
Maybe we have to address. But
Are you able to read the top one, Natasha, perhaps? What is it?
I'm really interested in the end of remuneration, operationally, strategically, the point that you made, Alex.
Yes, yeah, just to finish that off, the moving from operational to strategic remuneration is benchmarking. It's looking at which roles are being valued differently in market. It's looking at other organizations and what they're paying. It's looking at perhaps updating REM for your full-time and part-time people, but not so much for your casuals if that's not where you're struggling. So I think it's about actually making those more strategic decisions, and you can do that. And if anyone, is struggling with that, please reach out on LinkedIn. Happy to help you with that.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
then the next question was, do you have any tips on having people?
Please, there's something a bit
Exit
first.
surveys.
There's
We'll
something
come
first.
back to
coming
the
to me.
Martian logic one. Yeah.
When is the next session on you and Martian Logic, Anwar, Craig? I'm sorry, Michelle, are you a client? This particular series is not really about the Martian platform. We want to keep it about HR, purely generic HR stuff, not about the Martian platform. But we will be doing about 10, at least 6 between now and Christmas training, if you like, Martian Logic platform training to our users. And more than welcome to, if you're not a user, please get in touch with me and I can bring you in, even if you're not a user, onto those. I can send you the invites. But certainly not this series. This series is about strategic HR stuff.
She's previously used it, I think, Michelle. So, and is looking at exploring it in a new company. So I'm sure she'll get in contact with
Absolutely.
you.
So Michelle, by any means, get in touch
Yeah.
with myself or account managers or anybody that you know, and we will take care of you. But I really appreciate you. Thank you. All right. Next one. Do you have any tips on having people actually complete their exit survey interview? Craig, can you take this one?
Oh, look, I think it's a difficult one to do, but I also think it's important to grab them before they actually leave.
Yeah, I would have to say that. You get
Yeah.
the resignation letter. I quite often will go and have a coffee or organise for one of our managers to
Yeah.
go and have a coffee and just have that chat.
Yeah.
And then before they leave, you're just touching base with them, and then you either will get that exit interview then because you've still got a rapport with them,
That's correct.
or you've
Yeah.
at least got information
Yeah.
from them.
But it
anyway.
is tough. It's not always achievable because they might not even come back to the office ever. They send you the
Yeah.
email and they go,
Yeah,
I'm done
true.
and I'm not coming back to the office. I'll
And
send you
Yeah.
my laptop in a package or something. you know,
Hopefully
so-
that's the exception rather than the rule.
it's also giving them options on ways to do it. Is it in person, verbally, on the phone, on a piece, on an online form? So give them the options.
Okay.
Yes.
Think
Yeah.
It's directed
Direct
to
Alex.
Alex. You made good mention of spending that 10-minute induction for policies and procedures at induction for employees in an organization with over 150 staff members. What would be the best advice for this given we cannot attend to all?
Yes, and because they're geographically dispersed or you can't take them off the floor. I completely
The
understand
system,
this
isn't it?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, my first role was in manufacturing and it was the same, right? You can't take people off shift. What I would say to you is in any organization that you're at, you have to understand the cycle of your business. As an example, in manufacturing, we had a safety briefing in the morning for 30 to 45 minutes. That was the opportunity to deliver training to people. In Learning Links, we run on a school holiday sort of time frame. So we have naturally some slower periods when our kiddos go on holidays 4 times a year, basically around school holidays. And so that is when we actually ramp up our professional development and learning, when we know that our professionals are doing less sessions, a little bit less technical work. And that's when we have our PD days. So we try and put as much as we can into that time. Your organization will be unique. So it's really just understanding when are the times that you can catch people.
Okay,
And
Natasha.
I think it's that 30 minutes. You don't get someone for 30 minutes anymore, especially with the diversity that we have of our workforce. So those toolbox, when you actually know you've captured people and you can capture people across a period of time, it's training then.
Yes.
Okay, in our organization, small NFP, people always whinge that workloads is an issue and time is a barrier. Hence, they are not engaging much with HR projects. How do we navigate this and ensure we keep the people are engaged?
Well, I guess there's a difference between what do the people want to be engaged with and what do you have to get out to them. So what they want to be engaged with, they're going to be engaged.
Got it.
What you have to get out to them, the information, how do you do that at the most convenient time for them and in a way that they understand it? Because some people are visual, some people want the paperwork, some people want face-to-face. You know, we've recently just reviewed our LMS system, and across 2,000 staff, we've done it. And the information on how they want to actually learn is so diverse.
Very different.
So you need to, as an organization, if you want to capture everyone, you have to be diverse.
Okay. Thank you, Natasha. We do a work from home agreement, which includes a safety and risk assessment, including the employee required to provide images of the home setup with them.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
Nadika. Thank you so much for responding to Kevin's question there. I think.
Oh, that was the question. So I'm with you.
Yeah,
Okay,
and the question from Kevin was, how do you manage WHS requirements when staff work from home, e.g. site inspections, hazard reporting, ergonomics?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Great question. You know, we have our micro learning on our WHS policy. We also send out working from home packs via Martian Logic. So, you know, we embed it in our onboarding process, but to catch everybody else at a point in time, we did a big catch up where we sent everyone a pack saying, hey, here's the working from home policy, the working from home checklist. We need you to scan your environment, send back some photos, let us know that it's safe.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we use Martian Logic
That's
to
pretty
do that,
cool.
to send the packs so that it's all neatly recorded against the employee file. And just like a point on that, and this is about efficiencies again, is that we don't then download that and save that on a separate employee file. We you know, Martian Logic is our employee file in some ways, not for everything, but it is sort of essentially our employee file, and that just saves us a little bit of time as well. So I just mentioned that.
Okay.
So, Alex, we've been able to do that with packs with work cover as well. You know, just with the Martian Logic, you've got the onboarding, you've got recruiting, you've got everything, but you've got these packs. So every time you want to get something out to your employees, you can create these packs, create the information, have the acknowledgement, the understanding, and give them. You touch base. It's communication.
So you're saying they're flexible to use them outside of the box and
you can use them for whatever you want.
Yes, and we do that for onboarding. We actually have different onboarding packs, not per all departments, but you know, in buckets of departments, right? Because they have very different needs, and so we get them something that is really relevant to them. It means for us, it takes us an extra minute as people and culture professionals to kind of set that up. But apart from that makes that a lot smoother.
Because you can find in the departments too, you do these trainings or these toolboxes and like, come to this for half an hour and 5 minutes is specific to me.
Yeah.
The rest is specific to everyone else. But with these packs and being dedicated and actually individualized, you're actually giving people the information they need for in their organization.
Yes.
We'll take one quick question, 1 more minute on this. Can we pick a question, guys? Any of you?
No more questions.
I'm sorry?
No more questions.
No more?
We're
Perfect.
all
Let's
good.
move to the last segment of the webinar. The last topic, guys, is right. I guess what I'm trying to do with this one here is, if we all now agree that strategic HR is important, and it is very much logical that to be able to have time for strategic HR, you cannot be bogged down with admin stuff. You've got to streamline admin stuff. You've got to streamline operational stuff, streamline anything that can be streamlined in a sense. The question that I would like to talk about here, now that we recognize that, where would you start? If you have limited budget, maybe you cannot streamline every single little thing. What are the areas where, you know, is there some kind of 70-20 rule or whatever, 80-20 or whatever, where maybe with a smaller investment, you can do maybe 70% and leave the harder ones for later? That's what I would like to get three of you guys to share some opinions. I've got some suggestions in here. You don't have to stick to them or agree on with me. I've got the obvious stuff is the employee life cycle, the full recruitment and onboarding, any employee updates and offboarding, all the processes and the workflows with that. And it touches on the second point where by themselves to be beautifully done is not enough. You've got to get the managers to use them.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's when you really start to get a full ROI from implementing those. but that's one area anyway, I think.
We're dealing with people. So you can invest so much time in people. You can never have enough time to invest in people. So I think anything that you can streamline and you can have as a tick in the box so that you can really get back down to
Sure.
the people and strategic
Sure.
is what you want to do.
With
So
your
packs
with
and
your
stuff.
background in IT and being a CEO, and also now that you've worked with the Martian platform, you're quite savvy now with HR technology as well.
Mm.
So what comes to mind, an area you would go, oh my God, that was such a no-brainer, so quickly we saved so much time. That's what I'm wondering, if you can just share that.
You haven't put these words into my mouth, Anna, but I will.
Which ones?
But I will.
Sorry.
I will say, actually having the Martian Logic platform,
Okay.
you've given me back my people. You've given my people back time to actually invest
Yep.
in our people.
Yeah.
So they were they could spend 2 weeks to do reference checks, and we couldn't onboard them until we got the reference checks and everything.
Got it.
Now, bang, bang,
See,
bang,
that's a
bang,
good
bang.
example. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, recruitment.
Yeah.
But by the way,
Yeah.
it's an honor that you said that. Thank you so much. But that was a good example. I wanted substance
And
examples.
you
Thank you.
haven't paid us, so
Yeah. Well, look,
You're too honourable. Thank you so much.
recruitment's a big one, isn't it?
Oh,
There's so many
massive.
efficiencies there, and you can get managers off emails and into a system where you're just collaborating seamlessly. And that's what we do
Yeah.
with the Martian Logic platform. And
Yeah.
actually, we now have our managers in there so
Mm.
often that they're saying to us, we want more functionality.
Yes.
And we're feeding that back to you and
Yeah.
your wonderful team to try and give them that, because they want to. They actually want to be able to go in and see exactly where things are up to and kind of move things along quickly and easily. So recruitment's the biggest one. I think onboarding is, it depends how many people you're onboarding. We onboard about 110 people per year. So it makes sense for us to focus on onboarding. Your organization might be different. Maybe it's more or less.
I would love Craig to jump on the reporting aspect, because that's something data is something, you're really passionate about, but also our first engagement, Craig, if you remember, you were consulting for a large mining company client of ours, really large, 5,000 employees. And I remember the head of talent acquisition, said to me he was spending to the tune of 13 hours a week to create a report for the managers being the project managers. These are $100 million projects, say, doing a project for BHP, whatever. Can you comment on that, please?
Well, firstly, I think 13 hours was understated. I think it was more one full FTE was spent on just trying to manage the data and analytics side of the recruitment. But they just weren't utilizing the system. They were using spreadsheets to manage the recruitment rather than the system that was there. So data is definitely one of those things. And I guess just to answer the full question is, where should you spend time? It really depends on what the business problems are that need solving, is where you need to focus time. That'll be different for every organization. But whenever you are going to try and solve that problem, you want to be able to have the data to support that you've actually had an effect. So the before and after, what the return on investment is. So, and that's where systems come in. And if you are getting a system that pushes you down certain pathways and can only give you the one, recruitment process as an example, that's not going to help you solve the problems, because you need to be able to adjust when you find that something's a bottleneck or is causing your people grief, or the managers, it's not working for the managers. You need to be able to adjust it. So, but I'd also go and say that implementing a system is not strategic in itself, because you can get systems that cause you more dramas, more problems, more time. So you've got to be very selective in what you do and open up the bonnet to make sure that you can have all the data that you want in there, and you can have the multiple workflows, and you can have the multiple packs that.
Can I stop you on that point? Just ask you to emphasize it more. That's a brilliant point. So I guess I'm assuming, and correct me on that, what you're implying there, part of the setup of the system ideally is set up and configured to lead to the type of report that you want to produce, right? I guess, Greg,
Yeah.
is that what you sort of insinuating?
Yeah, well, you've got to be able to have as much data as you feel necessary, right? You can't be prescribed how much data by a system provider that you can have. So, and that's what I've found. Spent lots of times in systems, as you know, Emma, and some of them are very restrictive in what data you can have, and that doesn't help you in building, seamless processes to enable you to get out of the weeds and into a more strategic work.
If the data's in there, Craig, the data needs to come out to be able to help us
100%.
run our businesses. So
100%.
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
goes into a system, we should be able to get out in a return of investment and analyze it, and bring it into why it's going to be of benefit to our employees and our organisation.
What's one thing you're looking forward to be able to get as far as reports once you now started to use the Martian platform that you want to get as a report you're looking forward to? You can't wait for that to start to happen, being at your fingertip, always available, instead of spending hours to produce it.
So for me as a CEO, is how I have the individualized captured of that employee. I want to know how that employee ticks, because if I can bring that employee into work and they can leave smiling more than they came in, then they've actually got job satisfaction.
Yeah.
They actually feel important. They
Yeah.
don't feel a number, and I've talked to them as that person.
Yeah.
So, and that's all there is in their world. A lot of the time they want to collaborate, they want to be, but they also want to be really engaged and know that they're valued.
Yes.
Yeah. And our wonderful CEO, Jill, is always saying to me, can you send me a list of new starters so I can
Yes.
welcome them when I'm
Yeah.
around the offices? I can go and say hi and sort of keep a lookout for them,
Yeah.
or talk to their people leader about introducing me.
Yeah.
So I think, that having that on a dashboard, helps you be a better leader.
That's
So
an
yes, you can go
interesting
and say
example
hi.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
And I did that with the coffee. One of us is tell us about yourself. If I can go that new starter that started, and I can go down to our cafe and get the coffee that they want.
Yeah.
I know they've rostered on. I know they're
Yeah.
here. Haven't met them yet, and take them up their coffee. Hi, how are you?
Do you know what she's talking about?
Yes, we've
collecting.
yeah, we've got it as well.
But that's the data.
Yeah.
And that's the individual data that we want to be able to get out and makes a strategic difference to our employees.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and look, selfishly, I tell every single supplier, almost every Australian organisation has to complete a WGEA report each year, annually, and a lot of that data comes from a recruitment system. So why is it that our payroll systems and our recruitment systems don't have these reports as standard when it is a legal requirement for almost every Australian organisation, over 100 people? So, I would sort of just say that's sort of low-hanging fruit, I guess.
Yes.
But the other sort of reports that I find really helpful is the position movement. So, how am I going against budget with my vacant positions versus my, filled, right?
Yes.
Because you want to know, I can see instantly I'm 3 down in psychology, so I'm probably going to make some budget savings there, right? Maybe, or actually I'm not going to hit
the targets that I need to
the
do.
target because I'm 3 down. So that sort of thing, the position management, that's what you get from the org chart functionality in Martian Logic, is and sort of plugging in a reporting piece to that is very good
Craig
value.
was instrumental in pushing us in that direction to expedite that feature in the org chart. You've got to thank Craig.
I remember
he was helping out a client of ours, large client, aged care client in Perth. Can you comment on that, mate? The whole vacant versus filled reports, etc.
Just understanding, where you are at to budget is an important thing, and how much emphasis you need to put on recruitment, and how many resources you need to put towards recruitment to get those boxes filled, because it's fundamental in having the organisation run. So, it's critical.
We have plans in the org chart to have some kind of different view to the org chart. So instead of showing you the individuals, just stick to the branches, but provide more than 10, 15 data points at that branch. How many people under that branch, how many vacants, how many filled, FTE, blah, 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 all for that branch. So it becomes a lot smaller of an org chart, but it's got tons of data, but it's, and colored differently and whatever else. So you can zoom on the area that you want to zoom on and get the data based on that division, department, etc. We definitely have a plan to do that in the future.
Yeah, and that's so powerful, isn't it? And it goes into that org design sort of methodology around, if I can see in my therapy team that ideally I'd love to have, some seniors, some mid-career people, and then some early career people. If my org chart can kind of very instantly or in a color-coded way visually show me that
talking about intergeneration,
my 3 vacant positions are seniors, so therefore my team's sort of lopsided right now.
Okay.
And my juniors who are hungry and motivated for supervision and early career development and learning from seniors potentially are not going to stay, right? So when you can see that stuff and that information in an org chart, you can make org design or org structural decisions.
Right.
And that's how you become more strategic, because you can say, well, of course the turnover makes sense because we're not, so we need to focus the recruitment around finding those seniors and getting them on board really quickly.
Skill mix in the organisation.
Yeah.
Makes me think we're really, I'm sorry, Joshua.
No, go.
You finish first.
No, you go. Finish.
My sincere apology. I was just going to say, it makes me think, listening to you guys, we're just beginning in terms of what we can do with the org chart. Oh my God, we can do so much with it.
Yeah.
It's really, really incredible. Okay.
And I think one of the most strategic things that we can do in HR is move people from data entry and data capture to data insights. So the data's already there and it just happens naturally. So then you can spend the time not trying to work out whether the data is actually correct, but actually working out what the insights of that data are telling you for the organisation.
Yeah.
Yes. And there was a really great question earlier on, and maybe we can, Eddie, if you can scroll up to it, but it was about how can we use AI in the recruitment process specifically. So hopefully we'll just go and find that question so we can say thank you to the person who asked that. Olivia, thank you. And this is something that Anwar and I were talking about yesterday. We were saying that if you want to be operational, then you're calling a referee and doing a reference check, or you're calling an employee and doing an exit interview. If you want to be strategic, you're hosting a conversation with someone to get really deep insights about why they've left. What was it that, led them to the first decision that they made, and when they started searching, how long did that take, and where are they going, and what rem are they being paid there, so that we can actually, instead of just asking why are you leaving, we can dig into things. And the way that AI enables that is if the AI is recording the conversation and transcribing it, right, so that the person, the people and culture person is not trying to host a really great deep conversation and also madly record it or write it down and then type it in later and save it to then, have a way to use that information. So, having AI come in and take out those more manual parts, being able to record interviews, and being able to input not just one interview, but the last 50 interviews into AI and get some trends about why people want to work here. And then input that into your EVP and your attraction strategy.
And build trends.
Exactly.
But just creating job descriptions, creating job ads, AI just can do it instantly.
That's it. Yeah, and there's a great comment earlier from someone saying, how do you get people engaged with your HR projects? Our position description review was a small a project that we ran recently, and we updated all of our PDs, and we've added KPIs to every single PD now, which is great. We use AI to do that as a starting point. It's a first draft only, and that's what our AI policy says. But it's a great first start, and then we're just giving it to our leaders to edit, to critically evaluate, is that really what the role is? Is that really how the role is going to evolve in our organization over time? But it made that project so much quicker. Use AI to do your first draft and your entry level work.
Maybe one of the webinars between now and Christmas would be about AI, dedicated to AI.
Yeah, and then when you go out with your ask as a people and culture team to your leaders, you're saying to them, please be critical about the talent you need for the future, instead of please review a PD and put some dot points in.
Audience, just quickly before I forget, can you please let me know what would be more appetizing for you, more interesting for you? Would it be the next webinar about AI and the role of HR to make sure the company is prepared for the impact of AI on the company? Or talking about another topic, I would love to learn more about it through great HR professionals, is the role or the emerging role, if I'm right to call it that, of a business partner, HR business partner. What is this all about? Is that trend the right trend? Is that something that's going to continue to grow? Stuff like that. What would you say? Can you please type in the chat which one you would find more interesting? The role of HR in preparing companies for the impact of AI on the various roles in that company versus the role of HR business partner.
Oh, great.
Looks like you've got both. There you go. You've got your next 2 months.
Okay, well, we've got the
Anwar.
next 2 done then. All right. Very good, very good.
Now, we haven't answered all the questions, Anwar. So
I know.
I think for those questions that are there, I can see that Lauren and Henry are there. They can transcribe those
100%,
questions and we'll get
100%.
them back out
Thank
to
you,
everyone.
Tasha. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, maybe, I mean, more question now, before we start to take more questions from you about this point. Also, another feedback question. We should have done it as a survey. We've been really rushing. Eddie and Lauren has spent so much time. They've been working hard to put this together because we've upgraded the tech. There was a lot of work. So we should have had these as surveys. But if you don't mind, just as a chat, type in there for us. If you're okay, if you prefer this to be 2 hours or too much for you, because you can see that we're not able to really engage the audience enough. I would love to be able to
I think
answer
an
more.
hour of that 45 minutes to an hour is a good time slot for people. You can give that
An
away.
hour max, yeah? Is that what you think?
Yes.
I think
As
so.
opposed to 2 hours, too much, you mean?
2 hours is too much.
Too much.
Oh, and
Can
that's what we're getting from the chat as
Yeah,
well.
can we
Yep.
please get feedback? 1 hour versus 2
Yeah.
hours, and that will give me a good indication. Keep it simple. 1 versus 2.
Yeah,
Very
1
good.
hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really need to reduce the points we're discussing then to allow more, to answer more. If we cover too much, we're going to run out of time to take questions, right?
Or maybe we make it a weekly series.
Okay,
1 hour.
1.5 is fine, but that's pretty much what you guys are saying. Maximum 1.5, 1 hour to 1.5, what I'm hearing, really.
Mm.
Okay, fair enough.
And
Thank
there
you
will
so
be a
much.
recording of this session just for everybody.
yes,
Lauren has
yes.
put that in, so there'll
100%.
be questions and recordings.
It will be
given.
uploaded to our YouTube channel and we send you the link, or you can just, if you check out in a couple of days, if you go to our channel, it'll be there anyway, but we will send the link to it.
Perfect.
So you guys, I mean, I don't want to ask you to stay back, but whoever wants to stay back, if you have any questions about that last point or in general about anything, we're happy to stay back for another 10 minutes max. Any questions that we might have maybe forgot to answer, you're welcome to copy it and paste it if you like, if you want it to be answered. But thank you for the positive feedback, guys. Someone said good session. Might have not even seen some. We appreciate you guys. Without you, there would be no webinar. Clearly, we're only motivated by the number of people on the webinar and the engagement of the people,
So
right?
that one question from Lee, to what degree does organization design impact succession planning?
Yeah, look, it does hugely, right? Particularly where you've got senior technical specialists or individual contributors, you know, who you might not have a succession plan for. So your org design is that you only have one person in that role. And of course, that person becomes critical, particularly if they leave, there's not a successor. So I think, you know, what we did at Learning Links as an example is that we grew to such a stage that we realized we needed to add a team leader level into the structure. So we had managers, direct reports, and we needed to add a team level.
So
team
organically,
leader.
you're preparing that.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
dis-
That's right. And so that succession planning, what that means now is when that team leader goes on holiday, somebody from the team who might be a senior steps up. They get that fantastic acting experience.
As well.
And the other thing we do is we've got quarterly people leader workshops that are half to a
Wow.
full day where we get all of our people leaders together and we share fantastic content. And our next one is on coaching, and that's coming up in a week and a half now. So, you know, at those times as well, we're saying to our people leaders, who is your 2IC? Right. And it's a bit of don't ask, don't get in people and culture. If you're not critically, you know, encouraging people to think about the work, the department, the goals, the strategy, how stuff's going to get done, then then you're doing a disservice to the organization. So when you're saying to them, who is your 2IC? Great. When are you next going on leave, to give them an opportunity to act in your role? What development plan do you have in place for them at the moment? And all those things that we talked about with the org chart, they really help you with succession planning. But succession planning probably doesn't happen in Martian Logic. Martian Logic's data and org chart is a really great input into a succession planning process, if that makes sense. I hope that answers the question. Certainly from my point of view. Over to you guys, if
I would
have something
totally
further to
agree
add.
with you, Alex.
Yeah.
Craig?
No, you said it all, Alex.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
think we have also a potential topic for a webinar, which is this whole org design. Is that org design? Is that what you call it?
Yes.
Well, I think
yeah.
it comes from succession planning, really. You've got your organisation chart. How do you use that organisation chart to see what your skill mix is of your employees, what succession planning, what opportunities you can have for people to be able to step up and actually have an acting role, which they all love.
You don't just design your entire operation based on succession planning. It's an element to take into account, but you've got to run the operation effectively first.
You do, but
So
you
the
also
two need to be married, balanced. Yeah.
absolutely. But you need
Yes.
duplication as well. So if someone does leave, who's actually going to do that
100%.
role?
100%.
Have they worked 300 hours to
100%.
just go out for
Yep.
2 weeks leave, and when they come back, they've
Yep.
got 300 hours?
Yep.
So you've burnt them out anyway.
Business continuity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand. There's
Yeah.
a few things. That's an interesting topic. I think that should be our topic.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I think added to that is what you were saying earlier, Natasha, is, how well do you know your people? And then going to your point earlier, Emma, around if you're hiring everyone that wants to be the next leader, well, that's probably not the best strategy either. You need people that are willing to stay there, do the job, and
The
have
director of
continuity
HR
of.
for Coca-Cola once said, if you hire more than, 25% of entrepreneurs, it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
good.
it's like,
Yeah.
like what Daniela has said there. How do you do succession planning without getting other people's hopes up? Sometimes when we tell someone they are a part of a succession, they seem to think the promotion is certain.
Yeah. Look, that is tricky. I absolutely appreciate your position there, Danielle. And yeah, I mean, what we do is we talk about development. So we create a development program. So we might identify high potential talent, and we might say to them, we think you're wonderful. We can see you progressing in this organization. We want to keep you. We want you to be an active career architect to actually build and create your career with us. We'd like to work with you on a 2-year development program. Some of that's going to be practical stuff. Others, it's going to be, I want to put you in touch with a coach or a mentor. Part of it's I want you to attend more events to broaden your knowledge, or I want you to work on a senior project or with a senior leader or whatever it is. And so the focus is not on the position that they're going to, it's the focus on the development and the learning and the journey, and making sure that's deep and embedded, so that at the point in time that the position becomes available, they're actually kind of on their way already, and they're feeling really confident. And
back
yeah.
to Craig's point, we're not necessarily employing someone for life anymore. We want to employ them for their journey, their career progression. If you hold someone back, you've lost their heart anyway. You've lost that they want to be with the organisation.
Yeah.
You can develop them and you can exit really respectfully, that they may come back again later on. But you really, if they're hungry and you haven't got the opportunity, you do have to let them go.
That's
That's
it.
right.
So true. I'm a big believer in
That's
that,
interesting.
with love, let people leave.
Yes.
Right?
I was
Yeah.
going to come back to that quote and I thought, are we talking about love here?
I haven't thought about that. This is really interesting. You might not be able to provide these opportunities.
But what I
Sure,
say to
sure.
saying that, just the only caveat from my point of view is, whenever our people leaders say, my person wants to progress, I say, yep, absolutely. Because there is not a single role in our organization that we can't put some development or progression
Sure.
into. And
Sure.
progression is not moving to the next job or the
Sure.
manager job or whatever.
Yeah.
There's lots of levels of
So
progression.
you're being dynamic at redesigning
Yeah.
job
So
descriptions and
if someone's
Giving them
hungry,
projects.
we can meet that need. We
Yeah.
can. We absolutely can. Let's think about how we can do it.
Sure.
Expand their job
Sure.
description, expand their responsibilities.
But
their
do you acknowledge
accountability.
Natasha's point that sometimes, despite all that, sometimes you might need to basically recognize there's no room for this person in our business. It's best for the business, and then if they were to leave. Do you
Oh,
acknowledge
yeah,
that? Or-
absolutely. And sometimes you want them to go because they're ready and you don't have what they need,
Yeah.
right? And then other times you don't want them to go. And in that instance, you sort of have to, you have to make your peace with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when your
Okay.
children leave home, Anwar,
Yeah.
they've got to fly the coop sometimes.
That's it. That's it. This session was great. Anyone working in the Brisbane CBD who would like to help me in getting the most out of ML, as I am very new to the system, and I feel we would love to help you, our people. However, just so you know, Craig is a consultant if you feel that you have a budget outside of what we can provide. So we are here to help you. Get in touch with me. I can introduce you to people that will absolutely help you to do it. But just keep in mind as well, that Craig is someone who intimately knows ML as well. And if it was something beyond what you think we can do, you're welcome to get in touch with Craig as well. But please get in touch with me and I will have a chat with you. I'll introduce you to the right people in our business and we go from there.
And Nicolette, on the client side, Learning Links is expanding into Queensland. We'll be in Brisbane, hopefully in the next couple of years, which means I'll be up there a little bit more. So, and I was raised in Brisbane as well, so I know my way
There you
around
go.
town. I know where you are,
Brisbane
Royal on
girl.
the Park. So,
Get in touch.
yeah, just let's connect on LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can help
Yeah.
out as well.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Same goes, Nicolette. Just link with all of us. We're more than happy to talk about things and guide you if we can.
Thank you, Natasha, for offering that as well. Appreciate you both. I want to wrap it up because I don't want to, make it go beyond an hour and a half. I just want to say to the audience, we're really sorry if you feel we've neglected your question. It was really a lot going on, and I think we've learned that we need to reduce the number of topics being discussed to allow more time for the questions. So we will definitely do that next time. But definitely don't take it personal. It was randomly pretty much we'll pick up some questions. But thank you for your passion and engagement. We really appreciate it. Is there anything I wanted to ask in terms of feedback? I thought I had a question. We got feedback about some topics. We got feedback about the hours. Yes, the timing, 11 a.m. on Thursday. Can we please get some feedback if that's a good timing for you? We've done that survey many times with our clients. They've always said 11 a.m. is good. They don't want it to be later than that. I'm not an early morning person. It doesn't suit me, but I'm happy to accommodate that. But if you can just give me a confirmation, guys, the 11 a.m. is working for you because, knowing that some people from Perth and eastern states as well. Cool. It seems to be the case working. Yeah. Anything I might have forgotten to ask? It doesn't matter. Guys, thank you so much. Let's wrap it up. As I said, get in touch with me. I will connect you with whoever you need to be connected with. And from the panel's point of view, we will put when we publish the video, we will put their contact details, clearly if you're in Victoria, from the aged care point of view, get in touch with Natasha if you have any requirements for that. She runs an amazing business. Alex runs an awesome business for kids with disabilities as well, if you need to get in touch. And Craig Baker in terms of as an HR consultant, in particular when it comes to system setup and configurations and all that, get in touch as well. We really appreciate their generosity with their time. Natasha, as a CEO of a busy business, pretty much she's destroyed the whole day out of her time to help. We cannot be more grateful. Same with our friend here. On a very short notice, Alex is a superstar. Hardly unnoticed. Literally last night, I said, someone is sick, I need you on the panel. And she donated her time. So we're very grateful. Same with Craig. Thank you very much, mate.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.